Have you ever dreamed of owning the ultimate Porsche, only to find out that dream is almost impossible? Not because of money, but because of access. The price you see listed for a 911 GT3 isn't the real price. The real price comes after you're deemed worthy enough by a dealership. And that's assuming they'll even sell you one. So if you thought this car was just expensive, think again, it's exclusive. Subscribe to Revved 2 Riches for stories that go deeper than price tags. The Porsche 911 GT3 used to be a machine built by drivers, for drivers. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being just a car. Now, it's a status symbol, owned, admired, and photographed more often than it's actually driven. A GT3 today is more likely to show up on social media than at a racetrack. And while that shift might seem inevitable, it reflects a deeper change in car culture. A change that makes us ask, are cars still for car people? To understand how we got here, we need to go back to what GT3 used to mean. In 1999, Porsche developed the original 996 GT3 not for profit, but out of necessity. They were nearly broke, focused on saving the company with the Boxster and the base 996. But racing was in Porsche's DNA, and they needed a homologation special to keep the motorsports program alive. So they created a car using a modified flat six from the Porsche 962 race car, water-cooled cylinder heads, and just enough development budget to build something revolutionary. The result was the 996 GT3, a 335 horsepower track weapon that became the first production car to lap the Nürburgring in under 8 minutes. It cost $76,500 at the time, nearly $150,000 in today's money, and Porsche thought no one would buy it. But they were wrong. The few who did buy it drove them hard, on track, in the rain, even on public roads. It was raw, focused, and fast. That simple blueprint laid the foundation for every GT car Porsche would build next. The success led to the 996-2 GT3, the GT2, and then the GT3 RS in 2003. Each version sharpened the formula, more power, lighter weight, better handling, and with that, the GT name became something special. By the end of the 996 generation, Porsche had sold over 6,000 GT cars, not many by regular standards, but far more than anyone expected. Then came the 997 generation. Launched in 2004, it kept the compact dimensions and introduced the 997 GT3 in 2006. With a 409 horsepower 3.6-liter flat six revving to 8,400 RPM, active suspension, and razor-sharp aerodynamics, it was a purist's dream. The GT3 RS, and later the GT2 RS, turned things up to 11. And yet, despite the performance, they remained somewhat underground. Known mostly by true enthusiasts, not Instagram influencers. Owning a Porsche now meant you were part of an exclusive club. This shift changed how people saw cars like the GT3. No longer were they hardcore track machines for die-hard drivers. They became financial assets, collectibles, or props for online content. Buyers started ordering them in rare colors, adding ceramic brakes and carbon bucket seats not for function, but for value. A GT3 became a thing to be seen in, not driven. By the time the 991 generation arrived in 2012, the GT3 had changed. It was larger, more refined, and for the first time ever, only available with a PDK automatic transmission. The Mezzo-gear engine was gone, replaced with a revised Carrera motor. It made more power, 469 horsepower, but it lost the raw, mechanical feel. Porsche said it was better, faster, smarter. But some wondered, better for who? The GT3 RS returned with more aggressive aero, less weight, and even more exclusivity. But the manual transmission was only brought back after enthusiasts made enough noise. And by then, the GT3 had already started appearing more on auction sites than at racetracks. It became a commodity, a badge of wealth, not necessarily of passion. That's not to say every owner today is just collecting clout. There are still real drivers, track day warriors, mountain pass chasers, purists, who push their GT3s to the red line, who understand the machine beneath them and respect what it was built to do. But those voices are becoming harder to hear under the noise of hype, investment chatter, and curated social media snapshots. The culture around the GT3 has undeniably shifted. In the early 2000s, seeing one covered in tire dust and heat cycles was normal. It was a badge of honor. Today, many GT3s spend more time under car covers than on actual pavement. Asking an owner why they don't track it often gets a smirk and a line about preserving value, not enjoying the drive. Porsche didn't create the GT3 to be admired from behind velvet ropes. They built it to be punished, tested, pushed beyond its limits in the name of motorsport. But when something becomes rare, expensive, and exclusive, its purpose can get rewritten. Over time, supply and demand economics, investor speculation, and Porsche's own evolution into a luxury lifestyle brand turned the GT3 into something entirely different. It became a currency of status, a display of access, a museum piece with a license plate. So what does that say about where car culture is headed? Have the cars we once loved for their feel, sound, and feedback become mere symbols, high-performance tokens of wealth? Are we slowly turning the most soulful machines ever made into frozen assets for the ultra-privileged? Maybe it's not even about the car anymore. Maybe it's about the idea of the car, what it says about you, not what it allows you to experience. Still, we shouldn't write the obituary just yet. The GT3's legacy isn't dead. It's just in transition. It still embodies Porsche's decades of engineering excellence, its motorsport roots, and its commitment to driver involvement. And for those lucky enough to drive one the way it was meant to be driven, it remains a revelation, a raw, responsive, unapologetic machine that still gives you goosebumps in fifth gear. Whether you miss the analog purity of the early 996 or embrace the precision of the latest models, the GT3 still connects man to machine in a way few other cars can. The real question is, how much of that connection are we willing to trade for image? How far are we willing to let marketing, algorithms, and resale value steer our passion? When a car's purpose shifts from being driven to being displayed, from something you feel to something you flaunt, what exactly are we preserving? Are we still in love with the machine, or just the myth around it? Because when the soul of a car becomes secondary to its status, when the sound of the engine matters less than the likes on a photo, we lose something. We lose the late nights tuning, the early mornings at the track, the nervous excitement before a corner, and the satisfaction of a perfectly timed downshift. We lose the passion that built this culture in the first place. And yet, the spirit of real car people still survives. In garages, back roads, pit lanes, and midnight drives. It's in the stories, the builds, the breakdowns, and the obsession. It's in those who still believe that driving isn't just transportation, it's expression. Thanks for watching. If you believe cars should still be for car people, not just for collections, auctions, or aesthetics, then you've found your tribe. Subscribe to Revved to Riches for more stories that go beneath the surface and speak directly to the heart of driving.